Have you ever wondered how to interact with the YouTube API? YouTube is such a popular service, and in this video, you're going to see an example, even if the way that you might be interacting with it could be slightly different than the one that we'll show here, which is the YouTube Comments API, then you'll want to stick around and see how this implementation works. So we're going to kick it off getting started with the YouTube API, and you can see here that this video in particular builds off a previous video that will be linked to in the description below, where we went through this process of authorizing not just with YouTube but with all of Google's OAuth 2.0 authorization methods to be able to call their API. So this video builds off of that one. If you have not seen that one, you're going to want to go back and take a look through. Otherwise, it will be a little bit confusing for how you get authorized with the API. But the rest of it still should make sense. It's a lot of just work in Bubble, pulling some data in from YouTube's comment API, and then working with stuff here on the page. Now, if you stick around to the end of the video, there will be a little surprise twist that yes, this is about pulling YouTube comments, but there's also a little bit of an AI twist that you can take inspiration from based on this video and what is possible to be building out there with piecing together many APIs to create a unique tool that is quite valuable, quite a valuable service to the people that would use it. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. This we're going to review things first and foremost with this button. You'll just always want to make sure that whatever URL that you're working on, that you actually have the redirect URI set to this particular the particular URL that you're working with. You'll also want to make sure that everything follows this same URL structure. And then let's go and see, let's just go ahead and authorize that. So I'm going to go and authorize this for my channel so that I can pull some comments into this system. Okay, cool. So now that I'm authorized, and I'm actually going to see if I can't show this URL here. Yeah, one thing I'd like to point out in the last URL is that, sorry, in the last screen here, is that the scope here is different than the scope in the last video. So in the last video, what you'll want to do for this scope, so just a reminder, because this is also part of this video, is head over to your OAuth consent screen in your Google Cloud console.cloud.google.com project, and you'll head over to where you'll want to just make sure that whatever channel that you're testing on and that you would eventually implement. So here with test users, you'll want to make, right now we're working with an internal implementation. You'll want to work with an external one. So this means that your app will only be available to users you add to the list. Once your app is ready to publish, you will need to verify your app. It's not you may, but you may, but you will, in order to allow users who are external to your app to authenticate and start using it. So once you've got that stuff set up, you'll want to, with the right users, you'll want to head over to the scopes area. And for this scope, we're just going to click to add one. And then we're going to start working with this YouTube. And actually, we'll just say we will say YouTube.force and we'll see if we can find it. We can't. Okay, it must not be on. 1 second. Well, I may as well show this off. You'll want to head over to your library area. If you have not already turned the YouTube data API to be enabled, that is a step you'll want to take. Cool. Okay, so with that enabled, now I can head back over to the credential screen, or the scope screen rather. Okay, and with a refresh out of the way, we can see that we have this YouTube API, and we want to select this one for Force SSL, specifically for the way that you can tell what it is that you need is head over to basically like the area that you're working in. And so I'm working in this comments area, and it will tell you you'll find areas where it talks about the scopes that are used as you work with the different functionalities here. And so in this case, we want this scope. So that is the choice there. All right, so now with that set up, back in the scopes area, so that if I update that, we can see now that this is added to my scopes. So if I save and continue, basically now I am able to, over in Bubble, use all of the things that I would need to use. Cool. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and click this authorize again. And what this is going to do is going to give back in your URL. Here you can see where this code starts for this so it gives back this code, and then also gives back the scope. So we're going to take that code just like we've taken in past in that last video, and we're going to head over to the API connector, and then under the one where we exchange an authorization code for an access token, we're going to do that here, because basically we'll need to do this to get everything going. Cool. We'll reinitialize this call and grab this access token. And then I'm going to head down and I'm just going to show off this call that is already pre-built, because it just doesn't make sense to work through each of those items. But you get to see everything exactly as it is. So we have this get published comments list from YouTube. Now the way that we decide what thing to get, so here over in the API, there's a couple different things you could do. You could get, and this applies for anywhere that you're working in this YouTube API. So you can look up all of the different things. And so in my case here, basically the required parameters is this, but then the filters, okay, yeah, so this is also part of the required. And so we need to send one of these so it knows what to do. So is it going to get all the comments? When it says threads, this, you can also think about this as the number one comment. Sorry, the top level most comment, and anything that is reply nested on it, under it, comes out of this area. And why is this important? Well, we'll get to that at the end of the video, because it'll be a little exciting twist. So in this case, we're going to work with this video ID, and that's just how I decided to set it up. But you could also just get all of the stuff from the channel as well, depending on how you would want to utilize this API for all the different actions that it allows you to take. So next up, what I'm going to do is head back over to our setup here, and I've pasted in that authorization token that we got out of the last step. And what we're doing, we're working with the GET request. It is an action, so it shows up in the our workflows tab, working with JSON here, authorization bearer space, and then that access token. Content type application/JSON. I actually think I was just doing some testing, but all of these should be private. And what you want to have is part, snippet, key, your actual key from your Google area, your cloud area under credentials. So you're going to have this API key, so just click show key and then copy that in here. And then your video ID, whatever video that you would like to do. Now, let's see. We don't need this one or this one, actually. It's just this one that we want to have private. So I'm going to reinitialize this. And then we can see a bunch of stuff that we get here. I'm actually going to dump this into an editor file so we can get some colorization on it and start to work with that. All right, so what is sent back here? So let's see. So here is a comment. You have no idea how long I've suffered toiling around before finding this video. Thank you so much. So there's a comment that is a comment on, not this one, this is the last video to check out if you haven't already, but on this video. So this one was about a SendGrid API key. And so here is this comment. This was very helpful. Thank you so much. So let's go, let's see that one here. So this was helpful. Okay, so we can see that in our API call for this particular video that has, so I'm just going to hit save there, that has this ID, we've just tapped in to the YouTube API to pull those comments back, and then we can do stuff with them. So, all right, so let's just walk through this again. We have all of this stuff set up, part, key, video ID, and then make sure you initialize, and then make sure you hit the blue button to save. And that will set up this call, get published comments, so we can always just search for that in our workflow area. So next up, what we're going to do is we are going to head over to the design part of this. And what I've got set up is basically a repeating group. So we'll take a look at this, and you can just see, so what are the important things here? Well, the important things obviously is the video ID from this input that's going to be used for, since this is unprivate, this is a dynamic value that we can put in, you know, whatever things that we want to do. And so here, that call is made. I'm actually going to delete all of this out, and you're going to see some setup from scratch. But I want to go over what's happening in the UI area here prior. So we already did our authorization, and then this get comments, basically what we want to do is we want to call our new get YouTube, and then we want to use this a dynamic value here. And again, there is many ways to do this. This could be the channel ID. This could be something that's already stored in the database. So when a user signs up to the account, and then they give you the access through hitting the during their access through hitting their authorize and authorizing into your system, you'll probably want to make a call and get a bunch of information about their account so that you can use it, store it in that user's area, and then be able to use that for later on. But what we're doing here is, next up, now that we've done this, we basically are going to get back something that looks like this. Now, in situations where you get a big thing of JSON back like this, and then you actually want to do something with it, we're going to learn in this video how to do that as well. And then we're going to see all this stuff displayed over in a repeating group. So basically what I'm going to show off here is the structure of this JSON object. So we have items, and within this items, this is the start of the array that ends here. And what do we have going on here? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 identically structured packets of data information. And the thing that we're mostly interested in here is what was said. And it looks like, I'll prefer this text original because of just how it seems to be a little bit more nicely formatted. And then we're interested in the person's display name, maybe their URL of their image, of their profile picture, and maybe like a published date as well. But I'm not gonna go that far in this video. If you wanted to know more about capturing data from APIs and then formatting them into your Bubble database, keep your eye out, and there will be a link in the description for a course program that will go through all of that. Feel free to sign up and be on that list to be notified. But basically, okay, so what do we want to do now? Well, with this packet of these 5 things, we want to have something run through however many there are. If there's 2 comments, if there's 7 comments, we basically need a way to loop through these things, save all of this stuff, store it into the database. You could also, pull it in through the data API instead of a get, instead of storing it. Let's see. So through this action here as a workflow is because we set this action here. Now we could theoretically pull some stuff through a data API and then just display it here in this workflow. But in this case, I want to be able to give as much wiggle room and work room as possible for someone, and capabilities as possible for someone to be able to set up their app with all types of data being pulled in from APIs and then pushed out to other APIs to potentially do something on them, which again, if you stay to the end, you'll find out more about that. All right, so moving on, let's take a look at our next step. Once we have made that API call, we have all that data back, and that data is this data, and it's sitting here. And so if we were to, I don't know, say set a state or something like that, and this, it wouldn't be this, but a result of step one, we can see the items, and then we can see all of this stuff. This is the stuff we have back from there. Now, what we actually want to do is we want to store that into our database through a backend workflow. And so here, we're going to take a look at this workflow setup. Yep, and I'm going to delete all this out, and I'm just going to recreate it. So you'll go to General, New API Workflow. And again, this is something that applies. This is a great video. There's so much value in here that regardless of the API that you're using, if you ever structured data back from an API and you're wondering how to store it, but specifically only for the types of things that you want to be storing it for, then this is going to be a great video. So we're going to call this YouTube Store Comments. One, check all those. Manual definition. We're going to add a bunch of parameters. So what are we going to do here? Well, we're going to store this text original. And first off, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at passing that data from the API call into this backend area, and then we're going to look at a data structure that's been created. So then we can store this data in our database and then go and do something with it at a later point. So let's see how we might do that. So I'm going to call this one comment list. And it's going to be a text and a list of text. And then I'm going to call this one username list. Also text. Call this one, what else? Profile, photo, list. That comes in as a text. That comes in as a text. So let's say this profile comes in as an image URL. Okay, so we're actually going to update this as image. And then we are going to do the video ID, which is just the text. And then we'll say, let's see, total item count. That's a number. And then our current position in this loop. And that's looking pretty good. So, all right, now it's time to go and we're going to take a look at this data type. So this data type, it just simply has a profile photo, commenter, comment, and video ID. And so what this is just a YouTube, call it comment. And we'll just have a bunch of these. And you might tie these to, a user's ID or a video ID, and then so maybe a user has a list of all the videos, and all the videos each has a list of all the comments on it, or something in your system. However you think is best to set up a data structure. This video is not going into detail there, but let's go. So we got comment, commenter. Let's just call this username, because that's easier to remember. And then let's head over to this workflows. Okay, so what we want to do is that we want to create a new thing, and that new thing is this YouTube comment. And we'll just add all the fields here. And so it'll be the comment list and the item number, and the item number will be the current position. And then here's the profile photo list, username list, and video ID. And we only want to do this when, we'll just pick any of these. We'll just say, we'll make sure that when it's this one, that it is not empty. Because if it is empty, we don't want it creating a record if there's no comment for some reason, if it comes back. All right, and so then here we begin our loop where we say schedule an API workflow, and we're just going to go back and we're going to schedule this YouTube store comments one. Okay, and then we're going to schedule it right now, and we'll just add in all of these different ones to just pass it right back on through. Total items count, keep that as it is, and then this current position, and we'll notch it up by 1. All right, and then we want this to run as long as the current position is less than or equal to the total items count. So basically, actually let's say less than. Because then when it is equal, so like let's say it was on 4, we've done it 4 times, we've created 4 of these things here with this particular workflow, and then now we've only run this one 3 times and we're at this arrow. But then we're moving into here, and now this is the 4th time we've run this one, and let's pretend that there are 5 total. So the current position is going to be equal to the total number of items at that point. And then once it's equal, it will go here, it'll pass this condition, but then after it's passed through here, it's re-entered this, it will be on the 5th and final one, it'll go through here, and then when it gets here, that 5 is not less than 5, then it will not run this again to get into the loop, and then it'll exit, if that makes sense. Okay, so in order to get this one started though, we need to head back over to our thing here, and basically we need to, let's see, we'll actually take this one. We have this state that I'm just setting. We'll just store the input video ID's value, and then we'll make a call to schedule API workflow, and we'll schedule this one. And the video ID is going to be the same one here. Comments list. So this is where we're going to go and access everything. So we want every original. And then I'm just going to copy that so I have a starting spot on these ones. And so I want all these ones to be the display name, which is the username. For this profile photo, I want this to be for all of the profile image URLs. For the item counts, basically I could just take this text original and just count it up. And then current position, I'm going to start at 0. Okay, so basically what's going to happen is it's going to go out, it's going to do its thing, it's going to call this API workflow. I'm just going to go ahead and reset inputs. And then here on this page, let's go and see what we have now for, we basically got all of our data set up, but now we're going to go and take a look at just the UI of this repeating group and see what's happening in the data here. So we've got this group thing, which is really aptly named, and we have a repeating group here. And in our database, I actually have some stuff from a little bit of testing, and of these comments here, you can see we've got these. This is perfect. I'll delete these out, and then we'll take a look at what we got. But basically, you know, these YT comments, YouTube comments, it'll search for all the ones where it's equal to this video ID. Just for now, this is a simple data setup just to get us enough for this video tutorial's purpose. But basically, it's going to display all of that, and we'll get to see the username, who posted it, and their comment. as well as their picture. So let me go ahead and delete these out of the database. And then let's head back over here where we'll grab a video ID from this video here. And we're expecting to see these 5 comments fill in this. So what's happening again? So it's going out, it's doing the API call. It's coming back with all this stuff. It sets the video ID, and it uses that video ID to look at the database. That after it goes and schedules an API workflow on the back end, and that API workflow creates data in the database for anything it finds where there's a comment that actually has a value. If you recall our conditional here, that when the current position is not empty, then it will create one of these things. And then those things will get shown up in a repeating group, which we should now see once we hit this get comments. Okay, cool. So there it is. It went out, it got all these things. So our friends here from Brazil and everywhere else, we can see that this stuff was brought in from here over to here. So what is this big surprise, Joe, that you've been telling me this whole time? Well, I'm glad you asked, because what I'd like to show off is that why in the world would anyone want to pull in YouTube comments? I mean, hey, there's reasons, right? But here's a great reason. If we head over here, and we're just going to grab this next group, and then we're going to make sure that that's turned on. And then we're just going to refresh this. And we're also just going to rerun this. So I'll just delete these out. And then we'll get this started again. So we're going to grab these comments. It's going to go out and look out. And you might want to store, whether this is from YouTube, whether this is from anywhere else on the internet. This is, creative inspiration in action, where you can think about all the different ways that people who have YouTube channels that get hundreds of comments per day, people that have anything where large amounts of stuff is happening, you can start to see how you might pull in things from various APIs, whether it's APIs like this one here in YouTube for comments or something else, but then basically you can send that stuff off. There is a video on this channel for tapping into ChatGPT's API where you can get, you can send off prompts and you could have it come back with something. So you could easily, let ChatGPT just have a general knowledge of information about your channel that maybe starts, my channel is about this, my tone is this, I like to be friendly, and then maybe you could ask it to give back or a suggested text or 3 different types of suggested text, and then you could also publish this reply directly from here so that someone has, basically, if they have 100 comments a day, they can easily have an interface where they can just go read the comment, grab the suggested reply, publish. Read the comment, so now their time savings is down to 15 minutes for 100 videos versus, goodness knows what it was before that. With whether even with a virtual assistant or anything, there's just no need for humans to do these types of extra activities that can be already pushed to the finish line and just do some quality assurance based upon what a tool like ChatGPT is doing. So I hope you enjoyed that surprise, and if you did, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and thank you for watching.